Is there a formerly obscure planet secret in the farthest reaches of the nearby planet group? An ever-increasing number of stargazers presently expect that the secret of Planet 9 is real. And mind you, this is certainly not a dubious surmise, but a strong conclusion. The abnormal peculiarities in the Kuiper Belt literally scream that a colossal divine body is hiding here. But that is not all. A group of scientists is now even certain that an unseen planet should lurk at the edge of our home system. But what drove the specialists to this hair-raising supposition? Why has Planet 9 still not been officially confirmed, and why is it so complicated to find it? Have you ever wondered where the comets actually come from? Well, if so, then you have something in common with the Dutch astronomer Jan Hendrik Oort. He was not happy with the way the source of comets was located somewhere out there, so he proposed a bowl-shaped zone at the edge of the nearby planet group in 1950, which acted as a natural supply for the comet centers. Tragically, the so-called Oort cloud was only able to explain the orbits of long-period comets. A year later, however, a certain Gerard Kuiper came onto the scene to explain the origin of their shorter-period counterparts. And although the Kuiper Belt is now firmly established as a fundamental feature of space science, it would take another 40 years before its real presence was officially confirmed in detail. We are dealing with a ring-shaped structure of cold debris that extends just beyond the orbits of Neptune and Pluto. This area contains, in addition to comets, icy pieces and small planets. However, beyond that, and here's the interesting part, the Kuiper Belt has been thought for quite some time to literally hide something bigger, a giant planet that has successfully evaded our natural examination to date. But what is this astonishing suspicion based on? And how likely is it that we have ignored a completely mature planet for ages? Well, not that ridiculous. As mentioned, the planetary mystery would be hidden long beyond the orbits of Neptune and Pluto, and thus far away from us that it's seemingly invisible even to the most powerful telescopes within memory. Luckily, however, direct observation is not the only tool at the disposal of specialists in their search for a planet. And if there is anyone who knows how to break the mystery of the Kuiper Belt, it is Michael Brown. The American astronomer has devoted himself to uncovering the cold worlds at the edge of our home system for many years. He named the largest of these worlds Eris, but he could have simply called it the Pluto Killer. In fact, the discovery of the dwarf planet contributed significantly to Pluto being removed from the list of official planets in 2006. And while the planetary removal still shocks some circles to this day, Brown continues to look back on his definitive find with a combination of humor and pride. On X, he even calls himself Pluto Killer. On the path of Planet 9, 2006 was not only the year of Pluto's farewell but also the year in which the discovery of the so-called remote-separated objects set a much larger cosmic wheel in motion. The objects, also found by Brown, actually formed the foundation of a research study that led to a revolutionary outcome. Yes, a totally obscure planet could truly be hiding in the far-off universe of the Kuiper Belt. In detail, Pluto Killer, along with his associate Konstantin Batygin, explored the question of what the bizarre orbits of those unusual objects are about. Follow-up studies had shown that 6 of them described an orbit that points in the same direction. This seemed especially confusing considering that the objects move at different rates and their orbits are not the same size. However, the average orbital tendencies appeared to be no less confounding. After all, the orbits of each of the 6 celestial bodies deviate by around 30 degrees from the orbital plane of the other planets and objects in the planetary system. Could this really be just a strange coincidence? Well, Brown answered this question with a resounding no right from the start. In fact, more than that, since he estimated the corresponding probability at 0.7%. He even thought this idea was out of the question. But it was not initially the sad Planet 9 that was considered responsible for the happenings in the Kuiper Belt. Initially, astronomers suggested that the gravitational influence of a few large objects, such as a group of dwarf planets, was responsible. Eventually, however, this hypothesis had to be discarded just as quickly as it had arisen, since for such a situation the Kuiper Belt would need to be multiple times larger than it actually is. So the mystery had to be solved from another direction. A few simulations later, Brown and Badigian reached the wonderful conclusion that all of the observed anomalies could be explained by the presence of a planet about the size of Neptune. For that to happen, its orbit would need to be shifted 180 degrees from that of the other planets and Kuiper belt objects. Indeed, the astronomer pair later concluded that an increasing number of observations matched with the presence of such a planet. This, among other things, could explain the unusual orbits of the trans-Neptunian object Sedna and another large celestial body with no gaps. But does that truly solve the matter? Why haven't we found Planet 9 yet? According to the specialists, models suggest that Planet 9 weighs somewhere between 9 and 10 Earth masses and orbits the Sun at a distance of 400 to 1,500 astronomical units. To put this in context, 1 astronomical unit corresponds to the mean distance between the Sun and Earth, which is about 150 million kilometers. While our natural home takes 365 days to circle the Sun, Planet 9 takes a whopping 20,000 years. If it truly exists, the mysterious planet would therefore be out of reach of our normal telescopes most of the time. Then there is also the fact that Planet 9 is probably very faint. In this regard, the model calculations of a group from the University of Bern have shown that its intrinsic brightness is only 0.06 that of Neptune. On the other hand, Neptune has a value of 0.01. Moreover, the faint radiation of Planet 9 could also be mostly in the infrared range. This would mean that its temperature is around 47 Kelvin, or minus 226 degrees Celsius, which would make it only slightly warmer than its enormous surroundings. But do all these factors mean that we will never confirm the existence of Planet 9 beyond doubt? Well, not necessarily. If the celestial body is currently closest to its closest point to the Sun, it might have already appeared undetected in the pictures of past sky surveys. But even if Planet 9 is extremely distant from the Sun, it's not totally hopeless, because the planetary bullseye could still be hit with the help of a powerful telescope, such as the Vera Rubin Observatory. However, a little patience would still be required here, since the reflecting telescope is currently still under construction and won't be operational until March 2025 at the earliest. Anyway, the full truth also includes the fact that the final confirmation of the celestial body wouldn't just expand the list of planets in the planetary system, but also that of cosmic secrets. Because the existence of Planet 9 would be hazardous. According to the general view, large planets are formed where the original gas and dust cloud provides enough material. Amazing in light of the fact that mainly in these districts is the supply are adequately large to slowly form bigger bunches and, finally, whole planets. Yet with Planet 9, the matter becomes complicated at precisely this point. With a typical distance of around 700 galactic units from the Sun, it really moves far outside the zone in which the protoplanetary cloud would have provided adequate material for the formation of giant planets. So the question is, how could a planet that is only slightly smaller than Neptune end up in such a remote and erratic orbit? In fact, this situation even pushes our current models of planet formation to their limits. Albeit the same applies to the fact that, according to one simulation, Planet 9 must also be structured similarly to Neptune. And that is precisely the essence of the matter. How could a celestial body develop an outer layer of ice along with a thick gas envelope of helium and hydrogen if it has spent very little time in the gas-rich heart of the protoplanetary cloud? But if Planet 9 does, in fact, exist, then it must have somehow come into being. To explain its formation, scientists highlight 3 different hypotheses. The first is that Planet 9 initially formed in an almost circular orbit in the planetesimal disk, and the passage of a nearby star then caused it to be gravitationally captured and brought to its current eccentric orbit. However, the likelihood of this scenario is another matter entirely. After all, the initial cloud of the Sun would have had to be significantly larger and more stable than currently expected. Moreover, a question arises. Wouldn't Planet 9 have been flung out of the local planetary system during the stellar tryst? But who knows, maybe stars had a hand in it all. After all, perhaps these stars were even the siblings of the young star. According to this model, the star cluster to which our Sun also belonged was destroyed by cosmic tidal forces before our source of heat and life said goodbye to its stellar family. It might have taken Planet 9 from one of its siblings, or in other words, captured it with its gravity. Nevertheless, the likelihood of a captured planet is only 1%. So the third and final hypothesis is currently considered the most promising. According to this hypothesis, Planet 9 formed in the inner regions of the protoplanetary cloud, just like Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Gravitational interactions and disturbances eventually drove the large planets into much farther orbits. As the outermost planet, Planet 9 was thus pushed the furthest away and was eventually slung into an eccentric orbit. The key point here, however, is that Planet 9 would likely have been shot completely out of the planetary system, well, unless it was slowed down by the thick gas of the protoplanetary cloud or a nearby star's passage. Indeed, the discovery of an exoplanet orbiting its binary star system in a similarly extreme orbit has shown that this is very possible. But despite all the possible models, Planet 9 has so far not progressed past the status of a purely hypothetical planet in the missing persons case. Yet, who knows, perhaps the James Webb Telescope will soon be able to reveal more insight into the planetary mystery of the nearby planetary system. And we'd be happy if you could now put a little more subscription into your click. Go ahead and click approval and subscribe, so you never miss another video from us again.